All right, this is from Sports Illustrated. Pat Forty over there reporting that the SEC has convened a group, including Georgia's athletic director Josh Brooks, Greg Byrne from Alabama, and Kentucky AD Mitch Barnhart. By the way, those three schools, because of their premier sports, football, and basketball, they see this. And they're proposing, the league is trying to figure out a way to absolutely stop storming the field or storming the court. And if you're not, well, first of all, my suspicion is the bulk of y'all are going to say, "Oh, that's lame." You're not thinking with your brains. It's a very dangerous thing, and it mixes fans with players, which we should never do because fans are idiots. That's just all there is to it. And the best way for fans not to get into fights with players is for fans not to be around players. And it doesn't matter how awesome a win is or how unlikely the upset is. I'm telling you, it's abnormally dangerous for this to happen. I've seen a Georgia fan punch a Florida basketball player or something like that in the early 2000s. I've seen Kentucky fans storm the field against Georgia. It's very dangerous, just period. And it makes me think all the time about Clemson and how they just let their fans on the field. It's dangerous, and it's got to stop. Texas A&M storming the field against Alabama. Anytime Alabama loses on the road, people try to take to the field. It needs to stop. And again, it's very very dangerous. Here's the report from Sports Illustrated. Proposals for a new policy deal with fans rushing the field or court are expected to be presented to the league's full roster of athletic directors soon for discussion. Now they're going to meet up in late May, in Destin. From there, options for a revamped policy are likely to be advanced to the conference's presidents and chancellors in the spring meetings, May 30th to June 2nd in Destin. Approved changes could be implemented for the 23-24 athletic year. So that means this year. Now, uh, uh, one thing that Pat is talking about here, and uh, I'm not sure if this is going to happen or not. But he's talking about the possibility of a program whose fans storm the field. The next time those two teams play, the team that was stormed on gets the home game no matter what. So, for instance, um, let's his example here is that if Georgia were to go to Auburn and Auburn stormed the field after a win over the Dogs, that the Tigers would play between the hedges the next three seasons excuse me, yeah, from 24, 25, and 26. That would be the price of storming the field because they would lose their next home game. They would lose the 2025 game. For me, I would be all for this. And now, I think it's pretty draconian, I will say. I think it's a little bit aggressive. But this stuff's got to stop. Jermaine Burton hitting a Tennessee fan, um, police escorts after games. This can all be avoided. Fans should never be on the field. This is not that difficult. I know that y'all feel like I don't know how you could possibly feel like that's not fair. You don't deserve, excuse me, you don't belong on the field. You've done nothing to deserve to be on the field. It's dangerous. I will go through getting on the field at Georgia. There is not only are there hedges in your way completely around every part of the field with the exception of the four entrances and exits, there's a chain link fence between the field um, and the pathway to get in there, including through the hedges. Secondly, at Georgia, if you were to try to jump onto the field, good luck. I mean, you can't jump onto the field. You have to go over the hedges. And needless to say, there are tons of police as well as security guards. Now, that's at Georgia. We've seen Georgia fans storm the field in Athens once in history. So, once in modern history. So it just doesn't happen there. Kentucky, there's a ledge. You'd have to jump down. You're talking about breaking legs, breaking whatever. And then, South Carolina, I'm trying to think of Carolina, in the end zones, you could do it, but again, you got to jump over hedges. So every single thing I'm thinking of. The only place that you know the field is sort of elevated in the league. I don't know about Texas and Oklahoma, but at LSU, the field and parts of Neyland, the field is either actually right at where the seats are or even above the seats. So um, some places you could easily go on the field, and that's one thing allegedly, according to this report from Pat over at Sports Illustrated. Greg Sankey, the Southeastern Conference commissioner, said had this task force started immediately after the Tennessee Alabama game a year ago. They make for neat pictures, and as a photographer, I get it. But as a photographer, I don't want you know $30,000 worth of my gear getting broken by some drunk fan running onto the field. If honestly, if you're not I don't know if reporters should be on the field after the game or not. They don't seem to have a capability to understand that there are photos being had and people are moving around and so forth. But at minimum, fans should not be on the field. They have no business being on the field. At Georgia, reporters typically come down with about 6 or 8 minutes to go. But after COVID, everything's changed. And it's usually lately, I think it's just been photographers, but that over time gets, after a period of time at national championship games and so forth, reporters can get on the field. I mean, they should be on there, but their heads should be on a swivel too. Um, Here's one discussion of a really nasty um, moment in Wisconsin where students were pinned against a railing at Camp Randall. We've seen what happened at Liverpool years ago. That's a different situation, but um, it's not worth the trouble. Um, it's not worth the trouble of all of the celebration. I mean, you can celebrate in your seats. You can celebrate downtown. Now, if you're at South Carolina, I understand you're not right downtown, but you can go back to your tailgate. Just because someone has a big win doesn't mean that you're allowed to act like an idiot and put other people at risk, including the student athletes and the coaches. I think personally, there's no reason for Kirby Smart or Nick Saban to have 6 state troopers around them. I mean, that's ridiculous, except when people are storming the field. See? And, we've not seen that. That has not happened to Kirby. LSU did not storm the field against Georgia in 2018, but there were way too many people on the field that had no business being on the field in 2018. And I would not call that a storming of the field, but it was something like that. And it was dangerous. It was just dangerous. If some psychopath doesn't like Kirby Smart or Carson Beck or Nick Saban or, whoever, they can just take a swing at them. You can't have 6 state troopers for every single player on the field. It's not going to happen. And, so you have the excitement of the game, which ramps up, the testosterone, for lack of a better term. Then you also have the getting onto the field, which should be controlled at all times. Okay. And then you have the mixing of fans with the other team, which should literally never happen because it should never happen because it's quite clear that's not what you paid for. You didn't pay to confront the other team. You paid to watch the other team play. And we have gone too far. We have gone too far when fans are consistently getting onto the field. As a person who works on the field, I totally understand that security is not where it needs to be, and that's just all there is to it. But at the same time, fans should literally never be on a field. It should not happen. And the SEC is doing the right thing here. Now, I don't know if I don't know what will happen here. But I have to tell you that, Greg Sankey's got a lot of power at the SEC, in college football, at Disney. He has a lot of power, period. And it is important that the league get this under control. Like Georgia, Alabama, they're not going to storm the field. But we've seen Georgia storm the field this century, and it wasn't safe. So really, it's this can happen at any time. We've seen Auburn do it. We've seen LSU. I just mentioned a minute ago. So it's not like the so-called blue bloods of the league don't do this. But for the safety of everyone involved in terms of the 16 future teams in this league, there's got to be a sensible way to handle all of this. The most sensible way is for people who are not supposed to be on the field to be off the field. And if you're on the field, you need to know, you need to have your head needs to be on a swivel, period. I mean, it's just what it is. Guys are running around, coaches are running around. It's just, the state troopers or the state patrolmen, they're not worried about who's in their way when they have a coach that they fear could be in danger. They're just trying to get that person to safety. At places like LSU, and I mean, I have no axe to grind with LSU. I mentioned LSU a lot. It's not safe at LSU in 2018. It was not safe at LSU. They were doing post game stuff outside. It's not a safe environment. Period. That needs to be LSU needs to be addressed. Okay, the league should address LSU's situation. At Georgia post game, those are totally underneath, away from fans and all that stuff. But I know at LSU particularly, it's just not a good situation. At other places, it's not ideal, but it's not dangerous. Trying to think of Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina. Those are just not ideal, but they're not dangerous. Kentucky's probably the best one, to be honest with you. South Carolina is perfectly safe. It's just not a great position. But I'm trying to think of everywhere that Georgia plays, and some of the places have changed since the Dogs have last been there. But fans should never be on the field. They just shouldn't. It's what it is. It's really all I have to say about it. But if this happens and you lose a game, woo-hoo-hoo,